hello everybody. Very good morning to each and every one of our guests over here at our webinar brought to you by IMDA on the topic of how AR and VR is disrupting the smart estates industry. By virtue of being here, I'm sure many of you take an interest in the topic, either as a provider or an end user of an enterprise who's looking to incorporate AR, VR in your companies and in your businesses. So my name is Ching Hong and I will be your MC for today. So before we begin today's very, very exciting and fruitful session, please be informed that this webinar will be recorded and that your microphones will automatically be set on mute throughout the session, like I mentioned before. We most definitely welcome each and every one of you to ask questions during the Q&A segment, and you may submit them at the bottom panel through the Q&A function over here. Once again, I would like to reiterate, I think many of us are classroom trained. We wait for the teacher or the speaker to finish speaking before we raise our hands and ask questions because that's just polite. But many times we forget the question we want to ask. So on Zoom, it's slightly different because we are able to collate those questions for the speakers to answer later. So feel free to ask your questions anytime as the speakers are talking and going through the presentations. And if you are unable to do so due to any technical issues, please feel free to reach out to us via the Zoom chat. But if you do ask questions via the Zoom chat to the speakers, we will not be able to prioritize those questions. We will need to address those questions in the Q&A function first. So we seek your understanding in doing that. So once again, in this webinar brought to you by IMDA, we will be diving into the world of immersive media and hear about AR, VR use cases in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And at the end of the webinar, we hope that what you can take away are some insights on how to power up your existing workflows by integrating AR, VR technologies. And we have with us three very, very esteemed speakers who I'm going to introduce to you in just a short moment's time. But in the meanwhile, if you find this event fruitful later, or rather, just follow us for more of such events that are coming your way, either virtually or in person. So you can actually follow us by the following means. We do have a website. We do have our LinkedIn. We also have our mailing list over here. So we are going to flash that in just a bit of time. And of course, we do hope that you can follow us, visit us on the website, and also follow us on LinkedIn. You will be updated with many, many surprises over here. Now, before we start, I'd actually like to quickly run through today's program because we have three speakers together with us, and each of them will actually share about their experiences and projects. Yes, there you go. Yes, those are our socials, guys. So please feel free to take out your phones and, of course, to just take a snapshot. You can scan the QR code later in your gallery. That's fine as well. Or you can visit us on our website or do a simple search. Just search IM Pixel. I'm sure you'll land on IMDA's Pixel because it's the only such a huge innovation space equipped with full AR, VR testing labs with Oculus, HTC Hive, HoloLens, as well as many, many different facilities to help incubate as well as to help innovate. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we warmly welcome you to visit us in person. They do tours sometime as well, especially at events. So just join us over there and follow us on LinkedIn because that is where you're going to get the most updates from us. So thanks once again. And of course, we look forward to an amazing session together with you. Like I said, we're going to run through today's program very, very quickly. So what's going to happen is we're going to invite our speakers to share on their respective topics, their experiences and their projects with AR, VR in the smart estates industry. And after each speaker's sharing, we're going to have 5 minutes of Q&A. Now, 5 minutes, as you have heard it, it is a very, very short amount of time. So we do hope that you can ask questions along the way. So we are able to quickly collate and prepare the questions for the speakers. So first to take the virtual stage over here will be our representative from Geospatial, and they're going to talk about Enterprise Metaverse Discover the Future, followed by our partner over here from Epic Games on creating design ideas and VR walkthrough for spaces, followed by VR Collab sharing on virtual design and construction with VR. And also next up, we also have our special guest internally from IMDA Pixel to share a little bit more about Pixel innovation space and how you can fully leverage on the space to incubate and innovate once again. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our first guest over here, our first guest speaker, the marketing manager of Geospatial, Mr. Dan Lim. Dan was leading digital transformation projects for Skyworks Inc. IIoT ventures in the manufacturing industry and was involved in projects partnering with both startup companies as well as MNCs from Uruguay and Singapore in the geolocation tracking as well as biometric applications. He has also participated in venture fundraising with venture capitals, angel investors, and also have been instrumental in leading the team towards pitch day. He has also experience in managing AR, VR, MR, digital twin, and IIoT applications. Without further ado, let's welcome from VR Spatial, Mr. Dan Lim. Hi, Dan.
Hi, yeah. Hi, Xing Hong. Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just allow me to do a quick share on my screen. Right?
Of course, of course.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as Dan is the first speaker, I'll just like to reiterate my request to just keep your questions coming in the Q&A function instead of the chat over here. And admin, if you're able to highlight Dan, that would be perfect. And let's take a look at our first presentation over here on enterprise metaverse. Over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks so much. I think first of all, very good morning to everyone. Thanks for having me in this session to share more on what Spatial is doing in our line of business. I think I'm Dan, so I'm actually leading the marketing and ecosystem partnership in Spatial. I think right over here, right, as per the topic you mentioned, enterprise metaverse. So that's exactly what we do, right? I mean, metaverse has been a very buzzword, I think, in a recent time on LinkedIn, Facebook, even Meta changed its name. So I think this is something that everyone is very familiar with. But for us, it's really a lot on the enterprise level, how we actually elevate the game for enterprise to do much better in terms of their business. Right. So let me just dive into some quick introductions about us. So Spatial is established in 2019. So the key mission for us is really to bridge the connection between the spatial digital world and the physical world. Right? How do we actually make it much more efficient for our end users, clients to work better, more collaborative in their business? And one of the key platforms that we have here with Spatial is actually called Twinverse. Right. So as the name says by itself, it's actually digital twin and metaverse. Right? So this is actually a combination of these two words. So these are actually the key products that we have, and we have market presence. Singapore is actually our HQ, and we are present in Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, as well as China. And we're also looking into expansions into Indonesia as well as Middle East, right, in the upcoming quarters. And so far, we have delivered over 100 projects across multiple fields, right? Could be manufacturing, smart estates, which is the key topic where we are having today, on utilities, mobility assets, right? So these are the key areas, and we have grown to a team of close to 100 so far globally. So usually we run on hybrid basis. So this is the HQ international team right here. I believe based on this, you can actually tell that the DNA across this key international team is actually very diverse. Right? It's like we have everyone, we have our co-founder, which is Eric, and CTO, who has experience in Silicon Valley, has worked with NVIDIA. We have Gavin, which is our MD. He's a pretty much very experienced guy. And we have Mike, Lester, and Rahul with us over here. So I believe from this, you can tell based on the team structure that we have here in the Spatial. So just a quick share on some of the quick achievements that we have achieved just in 2022. I mean, over the years, we have been participating in a lot of competition, and just this year, we actually won the Tech Pioneer Award with WEF, the top 100 in the world, and we are the only one that's doing spatial computing for metaverse solutions, right? As well as IDCs, we won the Smart City Asia Award, the best in Asia Pacific in terms of digital twin urban planning solutions, and I believe we are also the core solution provider for spatial computing. And we are also accredited with IMDA, and we have won a landmark project, PUB, yeah, and more. There will be another one coming up, which is on the airport terminals. Right? So I'll be sharing more on that. And we also featured on multiple social media platforms, as you can see over here. And this will be the ecosystem partnership that I'm showing right over here based on what we do across different sectors. We work with governments, SI, consultancy, educations to discover much more innovative project ideas to how to enhance the overall solutions that we have in Spatials. And also the robotic and IoT hardware vendors, manufacturing, real estate, which I believe is something that's very relevant, which is the key topic for today. We have worked with JLL and currently exploring with CapitaLand to see how we can scale up the smart estates industry. And for the cloud, I believe you can see over here, right? Pretty much we work with most of the cloud service provider, right? Azure, Oracle, Huawei, AWS. So we actually cloud agnostic. So it really depends on the use cases, the user requirements from the client side, right? So I'll dive deeper into that later by showing some of the project videos that we have based on our past portfolio. So probably that will be more interesting, right? So the key topic today, I believe, is smart estates. So what is it all about? I think this is something that we have been looking through across the industry, trying to see how we can actually explore opportunities, right, in the digital future with in the estate industry. So the key thing to estate industry basically ties down to, in digital twin, we actually look at it based on the content. So in layman term, we actually break it down into 3 separate layers, right? So the first layer basically is anything that holds a physical presence. It could be an object, it could be a physical building, basically anything that holds a physical body, a model file, can be anything, right? And on the second layer basically is by putting up all this into a digital form, which we call it the digital twin, and showing up all the meta information, spatial informations that allows the end users to actually use all these key insights to make their work much more productive, efficient. Because I believe from today's time, a lot of the key users, right, even for corporate users like us, we are still using a lot on Excel spreadsheets, 2D dashboard, or navigating across different systems, right, to actually find these key stats or figures that you will need for your business decision-making process, right? So what we actually promote over here is actually on the third layer, which is the spatial interactions layer. So this is actually the key layer whereby we actually combine the elements of art, which is on visualizations, how do we make it much more immersive? And at the same time, which is the core stack deck that we have, right? Based on the structure, architecture that we own, to make it much more interactive for user to see, to orientate themselves in 3D world. So this is something that we are trying to bring across over here to all our key partners. And across this layer, you can actually see all this, right, at one glance over a single platform. So that's also backed by one of the key platforms that I just mentioned, which is Twinverse platform, right? So this is the key platform that allows us to connect physical and the digital world, right? And we can work with over 30 types of data formats. And we are comfortable working with over 200 types of dynamic communication protocols. And as you can see right over here, based on this right-hand side, this graphic over here, I believe in all enterprise, there will be a lot of systems, data, in equipment, instrument, or even different data stream. So across different data or across different departments, there could be many different data silos, right? So that's exactly what we do. We actually integrate all these data silos across different area, different departments, or different countries, right, into this single platform, as you can see over here, which we call it the Twinverse platform. So the key task right over here is basically to integrate, process, analyze, and push it out into a single stream of data, which is for user experience, right? So you can comfortably use it on mobile phone for convenience of access, on your tablet, on web, which is the one that most people will comfortably be using with, which is on a web portal, or even lastly, we even can project it using any form of AR, VR devices, right? I mean, even at this stage, we are also collaborating with Apple to see how our solution can best work and stay compatible with the smart glasses that Apple will be launching. I think very soon, right? We have been hearing a lot of news on that, right? So this basically forms up the 3 layers that we are trying to look over here. I think the first one I mentioned, which is a lot on content, and here we have the platform, right? And then lastly, this top layer over here that looks over the whole structure is the experience layer, right? So these 3 actually form up the overall enterprise metaverse, right? So what are the key benefits? So it actually promotes a lot on the work efficiency, like having all this in enterprise, right? And it allows key senior or managerial level, mid-level to discover new opportunities in their line of work because it gives them more freedom and explore new opportunities. And last but not least, it definitely promotes the collaborations, right? You no longer have to work like in physical space. You can have the freedom, stay agile, and work remotely and get access to all these key insights and data at your fingertips. Right? So I'll be sharing some of the key smart estates use cases that we've done. So very first one, I believe you guys are very familiar, right? Which is NUS, right? So this is actually the first carbon net zero building in Singapore. So the key pain point here is basically there's a lack of structuring organization in terms of different platform systems that they have, like IoT, facility management system, building management systems. So the key task right over here is how we actually unify all this into a single platform and then allow users to enjoy the best experience, right, on just one single mobile device. So there I actually have a video clip right over here to share with you guys. As you see over here, so this is actually the building itself. It's called SDE4, right? So actually for us, we do not just cover the internal aspect like the IoT sensors, detectors, environmental sensors, all these key informations. We also look after the external. For example, we can utilize computer vision or OCR, right, to actually capture the car license plate, number plates that's coming in, ingoing, outgoing of these plates. And we also do a lot on the integrations with different systems, as you can see right over here. Right, we actually integrate with different robotic systems like AGV, right, intruder detector equipment like this, right, to actually execute tasks, right, in this environment. To actually, for example, you see all this is actually happening in real time. It's actually a mirror reflections, right? Right over here, you see this in the virtual world, and over here, this is actually the physical world, right? So it's like a one-to-one replica in terms of the movement. And it's not just about monitoring and triggering. It's also a lot about the operation aspect on how do you escalate plans, right? To give you an immediate response that allows you to give you a flexibility to make change, pass down command or instructions right at the moment, right? Using your mobile devices. So this is something that we can actually trigger right from a single platform. So it's not just about monitoring, supervising, visualizations. It's also about having a command and control over the platform. And we can even run like intruder detection alerts over here, as you can see, right? We can recognize the different personnel. Is it an internal employee or is it the visitors, right? Like from here, right? So there could be a lot of things that we can look after, right? Like for example, this is something that is value adding to the overall environment, like setting up integrations with robotic system, doing special gesture, right? All these are being pre-programmed with our ecosystem partners. And basically we are the key person that's handling all the data integrations, right? So we do not hold any charge in terms of the hardware portions. Basically, we have our own ecosystem partners. And basically like these slides over here, it allows you to actually look after and have overview on all the key sensors that is within the premise. So you don't have to carry out a physical check one by one, quarterly check, maintenance check. All this can be actually all being done online, right? So it actually gives a lot of flexibility to how operations can be done. And we can even use it for marketing usage actually to showcase the environment to potential users, customers, or any external parties. And the next that I have over here is basically another use case that we just implemented last year in China, Beijing. So this is also the key award that we have won, the Best City, Smart City Awards in terms of urban planning, right? So this project itself, basically it covers the pre-planning phase, like the pre-construction phase, allow the key government authorities to actually have an overview, visualizations of how things would be like, right, when it's being built out full phase or even looking across like historical data, right? So you can see that we have a video demo right over here. Right, so this is actually a very big scale project that covers over 10,000 CCTVs, right, over just a small implementation scale right here. But the key emphasis of this project is really on the urban planning, right? How do we actually visualize and then look at different stats that helps the key bodies or the key team to actually identify what are the key pain points, what is the enterprise data or traffic within this city itself. This is basically a township, right? It can allow them to look across which are the zone, allow them to do urban planning, looking across different utility, driving towards the ESG components, right? The goals, which most of the, I believe, estates industry, they are trying to find a good balance, right? To actually understand what is the energy consumption, what is the savings, right? Across different levels, meta layer. So this is exactly the key things that we have implemented, like with this project. Yeah, so there could be a lot of things that you can do, like even managing UMS, right? Like user management systems. So it allows you to actually understand who is actually having which control, what is the progress of different projects, right? So this actually gives a very high level overview, and in detailed level, you can even zoom to meta information level, right? And all these, in terms of the progress updates, are all in real time. So this is exactly how we tap into different CCTV in this area. All right, so the next that I have to showcase right over here basically is microgrid. So this is basically a project that governs over the overall building estates area in China. So this is actually for one of the key power companies, right? That actually does the power, which is called Power Keeper, on the power distributions to different area zones in China. So if you look across right over here, so based on this dashboard right here, you can actually see that we can allow users to actually make simulation, like time adjustments with the real-time data that they hold based on historical data, and what is the amount saved, right, across different areas, right? Like the sharing, what is it? What is the electricity flow? What is the cost? What is the daily, monthly, or a periodic kind of electricity consumptions? And looking across the building energy information, there's even a charging station that we can even tap on, right? So as long as the API feeds to us. Right, so right over here, if you look across based on the meta layer, right, you can actually see, like based on individual level, how do we actually execute the key tracking for operations, right? For the maintenance work, how do we actually look across the power supply for individual level? What is the consumptions, right? And who are the key personnel that will be in charge of executing the maintenance work, right? So all these are actually being put in place, and even giving some sort of threshold, right? So we can actually set threshold on our end to actually allow the system to actually prompt you, give you notifications. So the maintenance team or the equipment teams can know when they have to actually look or carry out periodic maintenance workflow for all these key equipment. And we can even link up with, as you can see over here, like a tutorial video. So this tutorial video can be in the form of AR, VR, or in the form of like video form that you are looking at over here in video format, right? So it's actually very comprehensive. It depends on which channel the key users would like to actually utilize. So that's something that we can always help put together. So I believe like by sharing all this, it actually gives all the audience right over here better understanding on what exactly we do in terms of enterprise metaverse solutions. I mean, if you guys find it's a good fit with your company pain point, like with our solutions, I think feel free to get connected with us at info@verspatial.com, right? Or just get linked up with me on LinkedIn. I think either way works. I think thanks so much for your attention. I'll take in any Q&A question at this point of time. Thanks,
Sure.
guys.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you for sharing. And it does look very, very exciting what you have on the Twinverse platform with that data integration, the Internet of Things, also energy management. There's so much going on. And I believe that our attendees do have a couple of, starting with the first one over here. This attendee mentioned that might be early to raise this question. Do not worry. We can ask again to the other speakers as well. Just like to inquire what are the key challenges and solutions in generating digital information and ultimately a digital twin of old and brownfield buildings and spaces? I think that's a great question because this sounds like new developments, but what about the old buildings and spaces?
Right. Actually, this is a very good question. So usually for this kind of digital twin project, we will break it down in multiple phases, right? So for older buildings, right? So we have to look across what are the key information that we already have. So the very basic or fundamental level would be the CAD model files, correct? Like the CAD models, BIM model files, right? I think that would be, I think what we used to have based on the construction phase, there will definitely be a 2D version, right? So I think fundamentally the key thing of implementing a digital twin solution is to have the digital twin environment being built out. Then on a second layer, which usually what we look at is really looking and tapping into the different digital informations. So these informations can come in from hardware portion, like having a hardware IoT systems, right? So we can actually we work with partners that are very, experienced in this area, whereby they will help put things, deploy IoT sensors, keep track and all this. So basically on our end, we will pull all this key information from the vendor side, right? That's how we actually put all this together. And then lastly, which is on the spatial level. So with some systems, for example, robotic systems, so we work with them to not just work on a one way of information receiving end, but we work on the other way, which is a both way, right? So on our end, not just on visualizing, monitoring, but we also do the action and commanding actions. There will be an action plans there. So usually we try to break it down in different layers, right? And then lastly, which is analysis part. So what are the key insights that actually brings value to the company, right? What actually helps? So I think ultimately by implementing all these key solutions, I think the key value is how can all this information, dashboard, 3D visualizations actually helps in the ROI, the business turnover, what is the performance. I think after all is looking at the profitability and the ROI coming back from these implementations. So which is very important for us to align with the managerial level, what is the key directions, right, in terms of the project outlook.
Thank you so much, Dan. And I think that's definitely true. Looking at the ROI from the beginning would be very, very important. Yeah. Well,
right.
yeah. And of course, we do have another question that is relatively different. First of all, it says to VR Spatial, very nice platform. And
thanks so much.
The question is, have you already worked with vertical transportation OEM such as lifts, escalators to visualize traffic movement? Oops, let me just see. To visualize traffic and movement of the lift, status and maintenance aspects, etc.
Right. Actually, for us, we work with a lot of, not just lift, but on all the hardware systems, so all the IoT systems. So as long but for lift, sometimes it's a bit sensitive. Because we had a lot of conversation with the estate industry, right? So we know that for lift, sometimes they are not willing to share the data or the API feed from their end. This is something that's really sensitive, I think, from their point of view, right? But I think as time goes by, I think once the adoption is high, right, there is no reason for them to turn down these requests coming from technology vendors or solution providers like us, which in fact we are already exploring with multiples of the estate MNC in Singapore. And I mentioned like our ecosystem partners like Capital Land is actually one of them, which we are currently exploring with to see how we can help put all this together. And in fact, some of the key vendors from the lift industry or this hardware side, they are already comfortable with providing this because they actually see this is actually the first tranche for them to cross, right? Ultimately, I think these are not really highly confidential data for them to share out with us.
No problem. Thank you so much, Dan, for sharing on that. And of course, we do have a couple more questions. I think we just have time for one more, but I'm just going to cheat on this a little bit. I'm going to merge two questions over here because both of them are talking about 5G in essence.
Right.
So there's one attendee who asked if 5G is used in the NUS use case, and if so, how is it being utilized? And at the same time, is the other attendee is asking what will be the internet speed and latency required for viewing digital twin? Do you need to have 5G?
Right. Actually, this is a very good question. So this is also one of the key questions that we always receive from our partners and our clients. Actually, 5G, I would say it depends really on the use cases, right? And really depending on the level of detail that you need for the visualizations, right? For example, NUS project. So that is actually running on a 5G network and it's being deployed on AWS, right? So on the private cloud. So for this, based on the visualization that you see, it's actually of a high fidelity. So it's because we are running all this in real-time space rendering, right? So all this is like how you render a graphic. So it's the same thing, but you are rendering all this on cloud. So technically 5G is really essential for us to actually have this kind of support from the telco side to help make the overall transition, the frame to frame, right, for user experience to be much smoother. So you wouldn't be actually experiencing any form of latency, because that actually brings down the overall adoption rate. because users don't find it comfortable, it's very laggy. So people wouldn't want to try that out. I mean, if they experience like a low like a latency, I mean, they will actually bring down a lot on the experience level. So which is why it really depends on the use case. If this is just on the foundation level, let's say you don't need that level of details, right? Then 4G is actually good enough for us to put up even the enterprise level metaverse solutions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dan. And of course, it depends on the level of adoption, as you mentioned, and the type of functions that we could require. I sense that this could potentially be an hour or 2 hour long conversation.
Yeah.
And of course, I sense that you might want to take it offline with Dan. And I think there are more questions coming along as well. But due to the interest of time, we strongly invite you to connect with Dan personally via LinkedIn, or you can also reach out to IMDA, because this is where we actually sort of like do a little bit of matchmaking between the solutions provider as well as the problem owners over here, so you can have a longer and more meaningful and in-depth conversation that's more customized to your needs as well. So once again, we really thank Dan for your time. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Dan from VR Spatial, thank you so much for your sharing.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. And next up, of course, moving along in the program, we have altogether actually 4 speakers, including one from IMDA to share a little bit more about Pixel. Next up, we have a very unique guest over here, guest speaker. He is the evangelist and technical account manager of Southeast Asia Epic Games. Now, if we are in a gaming conference over here, I would not need to introduce them at all because it is such a big name in the gaming industry. But if any of you have kids, you have Fortnite, yep, that's by them. Yeah. So they have Unreal Tournament, Infinity Blades, Gears of War, many of these hugely successful games, including the computer graphics game engine, Unreal Engine, developed by them. So, but today we're talking about smart estates, and we're going to specifically go into that. And leading us into this conversation, we have Dean Reinhardt. And as a technologist, engineer, and developer for over 10 years, Dean is passionate about helping everyone hone their creativity through this cutting-edge technology. So let's welcome Dean. Hi, Dean.
Hello.
Thank you. And over to you, Dean. Thank you.
Awesome. I think everyone should be able to see my screen there now, hopefully. So assuming nothing's going wrong, I'll kick off. So yeah, I'm Dean Reinhardt. I'm based out of Singapore. I've been here for nearly 10 years now. And I've actually only been with Epic for about 2 years. But before that, I found the elevator question quite interesting because I was doing exactly that in Singapore for a number of years. We built IoT monitoring devices and installed them on elevators and escalators to make digital twins and do predictive maintenance. So definitely feel free to reach out and I can put you in touch with that company that's still going. But I was doing lots of Unreal work in that space, and that's what actually brought me over to Epic Games, because now I support a lot of our customers that are doing digital twins and real estate, as well as virtual production and other areas. So I'm just going to kick off with a quick video now, just to kind of introduce people that don't really know our tools to what you can do with them.
Creativity lies in all of us. It's what makes us human. It starts with an idea, the desire to create, to solve, to play, to share, to interact. Together we can build new worlds. The freedom to create for all.
I think that usually tends to wake people up a little bit in the morning. It's an awesome kind of film, but the crazy thing is that's all done in Unreal Engine And that's all able to be done in real time as well. So there's no pre-rendering for days or weeks to get that done. You could turn it into a game, you could make it interactive, you could make it into a digital twin of that city or do whatever else you want with it. It's kind of up to you. So Epic Games in general, we've been around for about 30 years now. We're pretty well all over the world. And I keep forgetting to update this slide with the pin for Singapore, but we're across a lot of different countries and we're now close to about 5,000 people. And we've grown pretty drastically over the pandemic for plenty of different reasons. But Fortnite has been one of those. And so, yep, we make Fortnite, which is one of the biggest games in the world. We recently actually made Fall Guys free to play, and we had 50 million players within the first 2 weeks of that. We have Rocket League and a number of other games titles, but most of them are built with Unreal Engine. And Unreal Engine itself is the underlying technology which enables all this 3D content creation, stuff like Verspatial creates, and a lot of other customers do that using Unreal Engine across different industries. So it's not a single industry use. It runs lots of things, and yeah, Fortnite is one of the things that it runs. And since it's one of the biggest games in the world, massive online multiplayer type experience, we really battle test Unreal Engine with that, and then we make that available to all of our licensees. One of the amazing things that we do in Fortnite is that, yep, it's a game, you run around, shoot people, but we also do huge events in it. And that's kind of what the metaverse is going to be, is these massive collaborative social experiences. And we run these sort of ones with Travis Scott. Our Galactus one is one of the biggest we've ever done, where we've had over 15 million people joining in an experience live together. So this is a once-off type of experience. Everybody comes in at the same time, joins in, and becomes part of the experience. The Travis Scott one as well, where we had over 10 million people. I think he has over 2.5 billion views on his YouTube channel for that one now as well. So it kind of spreads out across these different multimedia spectrums. And Unreal is actually free to get started with, which has made it be adopted across every single industry that touches 3D content everywhere. Whether that's in architecture, automotive, it's used across training and simulation. If you want to train self-driving cars, it's done for that. Broadcast, TV, live events, film animation, and games and everything else. So we've got over 14 million licensees that use our tech, and that's just looking at Unreal Engine itself. There's a bunch of other products that tie in with Unreal that I'll touch on later as well. But one of the really exciting things is that the real-time 3D industry is growing like crazy. And in Singapore alone, we did a study, I think this was a couple of years ago now, but over a 5-year period, there's a 30-fold increase in job demand. And I can definitely attest to that, because every single day there's people coming to us looking for Unreal Engine developers to employ, which is why we actually give out free training to everybody. We work very closely with all the schools here so that everybody is learning Unreal, regardless of what they're actually studying, which is great, because you can hire someone from film and animation at somewhere like LaSalle or ITE, or hire someone from architecture at SUTD, or someone with programming skills from DigiPen, and they can collaborate across these different skill sets. And we work with a lot, if not all, of the major global architecture firms. So across the spectrum, there's different things that they might use it for, but some really amazing different pieces that these companies put together using our tools. And I mentioned that it's not just Unreal Engine. We have a whole spectrum of different tools and platforms that are there to enable you to build these sort of different experiences. So we have Twinmotion, Sketchfab, MetaHuman, Quixel, Capturing Reality, and I'll touch on a few more of those later. But first, I'll kind of jump into Twinmotion and Unreal Engine. So Twinmotion itself is kind of Unreal Engine for dummies. It's designed to look at visualization purely. So whereas Unreal Engine has lots and lots of features, is a complex tool you can build anything with, Twinmotion, we really took it for visualization. And we started out with architecture, but that's gradually expanding into different areas as a lot of people have just started using it in that space, and we've recognized the need to support the automotive industry, the marketing, advertising industry that use Twinmotion for visualization, animations, VR and AR. Because it's got all of these features built in, but it's really, really simple to use. You can download Twinmotion and you can start to be pretty good at it within a day. Not joking, play around with it for one day and you'll get a pretty good idea of what you can do with it. and it's got plenty of features built in, so you can export out 360 panoramas. It's even got a web-based panorama viewer, so you can just say, I want my panorama hotspots here, export that out, view it on a web browser, share it with clients, view it in AR and VR. And there's a full pixel streamed web browser version as well, so you can have the full interactive 3D content, which doesn't rely on the user's PC being able to run it because it's all streamed directly from the cloud, but it can be interactive 3D content there. So we actually released a new version of that about 2 days ago. So I've got a quick video to show you some of the new features in there. So some pretty big new updates in there. Sketchfab integration is one of them that really changes things because it opens up 600,000 plus free assets that you can just drag and drop straight in. It's a really cool tool that you got for just visualization there. But if you then wanted to turn that into a digital twin, then that's where you want to move over to Unreal Engine. And Twinmotion itself is built with Unreal Engine because Unreal Engine is the rendering engine, the SDK, essentially everything that powers all of it, and Twinmotion just makes it easier to use. But if you want all that flexibility, the ability to bring in external data sets, tie to live things, build up multi-user collaboration, build these enormous digital twins using Cesium, Esri, ArcGIS, for example, you can bring your content from Twinmotion, where let's say an architect has made it look pretty. You can then bring that into Unreal and start to add all this data into it. So I've got another quick video here that shows off some of the cool digital twins and high-end architecture content done on the Unreal Engine side. Here you can see a full digital twin of Wellington in New Zealand, where it's the entire city, and they bring in real-time traffic data from public transport, stuff that you can actually get for free in Singapore as well from the open gov data sets, which is really interesting. You can have live collaboration, build environments. It's very commonly used in the real estate industry when they want to sell or let people preview what the real estate's like. And then for running simulation across these different data sets, what's it look like when you're going to put a new skyscraper in a building that has restrictions for line of sight of historical assets like London, for example. You might want to do something very different with it. If you've been down to the URA gallery, they have something very similar to this. This example in the US brings in live traffic data, lets you change a lot of different settings with it, bring customers in to check it out. Here you can see some very impressive digital twins, similar to what we just saw from Verspatial. But on top of that, you could then build your driving simulator. So when you're designing a road, it's not just what you think it should be based on the rules of how tight the curve should be. You can put people in it, let them drive around and start to understand it, understand what it's like for 100,000 people in a stadium. And again, all of this is in real time. So all these nice looking visuals, it might seem that nice looking doesn't really matter much for a digital twin, but it really does. When you want to put somebody into an immersive experience, having that realism to it makes such a big difference there. And here again, a really good example, if you got a customer that wants to buy a house, customize their kitchen, letting them really understand what the final product is going to be when they're going to press that purchase button is a big deal. And that's a decision maker there. So the kind of breakdown between Twinmotion is that, yeah, Twinmotion is Unreal, but it's designed for visualization and it's super simple and easy to use. You can get it up and running in no time at all. You don't need any training or anything. Coming into Unreal Engine, once you want to do these more complicated projects, build out a product, for example, that's going to take a little bit more work. It's got all the same kind of tools that you have with Twinmotion, but it gives you much more flexibility, and flexibility comes with a bit of complexity to it. But one of the really big things, and especially leading into the metaverse, is that because Unreal is used across all these different kind of platforms and end products, we've designed it so that you can carry across your assets between all these different things. You shouldn't have to build new versions of everything to run in AR or HoloLens or VR when you still want to have your high quality version to be on a desktop or to use for marketing material. So we have a system called Datasmith where we have plugins for pretty much all of the major digital content creation tools, but we also support FBX, Alembic, USD, GLTF examples in there. And you can bring all of that content into Unreal Engine. So we often find multiple teams where the interior design team, the landscaping team, the architecture team can all start to bring their data together in Unreal, work on it collaboratively. And it's no more of these siloed kind of things where somebody hands off an asset to somebody and then they have to rebuild it again for different use cases. Here it's about working on those assets together. And as we move into the next sort of stage with the M word here, which is still very much an unknown type of thing, but it really is driving towards what the future will be with these kind of assets. A couple of quick sort of case studies in here. Ferrari is a company that we work with quite a lot because they use our tools across the board, whether they're designing a car or you want to buy a car, or whether they're making their advertising or bringing it into Fortnite. It's being able to carry those assets across the different pipelines there that allows you to do something as crazy as this. So as we look at Fortnite continuing to evolve into this metaverse type experience that it's already becoming at the moment, bringing these enterprise use cases in is really exciting because there's a lot of back-end work that goes into running Fortnite, but it's the same kind of thing if you want to bring people into a shared experience. If you can piggyback off of that, then why not? And with the next generation of tools that we have coming for Fortnite Creative, you can start to build out these experiences and potentially, eventually at some point, build entire digital twins and digital worlds inside there. Really interesting use case so far has been Team Power, which is an esports team that plays Fortnite and Rocket League and everything. But they worked with Populous, that is an architecture firm. And Populous designs and works on stadiums and airports and a lot of other buildings. But they worked with them for designing their new headquarters. And at the same time, they built that into Fortnite so that people can come in, check out what will potentially be their future headquarters, and play around in it, start to understand it, connect with the people that are their idols and things. Like, they don't care about people on TV anymore. They care about these esports influencers. So building these experiences, but seeing that these teams are working with real architecture design firms to come up with these digital buildings is quite cool. And Unreal Engine 5 is really what's starting to power a lot of these crazy, massive experiences. So a few of the major new features we've gotten there is Mass AI, which enables us to run these giant worlds with realistic AI, thousands of characters and vehicles and everything else that runs around these cities. Nanites now allows us to bring in billions of polygons and not care, essentially. We could do a lot of this stuff previously, but now with UE5, we can push the quality level way, way further than we ever could before. With realistic lighting, all of what you're seeing here actually runs on a gaming console. It's not running on a $50,000 PC. This is running in real time on a PS5 or an Xbox. And you can have this sort of near photorealistic quality with tens of thousands of AIs running around in that simulation. All this content that we've built here, we actually released it all for free as well. So you can grab all the code that we use to generate this procedural city, all the assets, the cars, the buildings, the systems that make it all work. All that is freely available for you to grab and then integrate into your own systems as well. And I got a quick video from what that is actually from.
Hi, I'm Thomas Anderson. Like many of you, I work with computers. But computers are also mirrors, reflecting back who and what we are in the choices we make, the worlds we build. You still got it.
Like riding a bike, they say.
So again, all that was designed to run on a gaming console. So it works across platform and it's optimized to be super high quality, but also run on lower end kind of devices. But the amazing thing that you're seeing here is this is running in a web browser. So this is just a standard Chrome or Internet Explorer. You can open it up and jump into this experience using pixel streaming. So this is really where we'll start to see like 5G and things become a major kind of use case. When you want this incredibly high fidelity digital twin of somewhere like Singapore that you can interact with and experience just through a web browser, and all that processing is done on the cloud. You don't need to have a high-end device to use it. And that's where it gets pretty amazing for what we could see coming in the future. But then if you also want to create the humans in there, that's where we have MetaHuman Creator. So this is another tool that runs entirely in a web browser. You can create these super believable digital humans, animate them in real time with facial motion capture from an iPhone, or throw on a mocap suit, put them into your simulations and start to experience like realistic characters in your environment. Especially if you're doing a visualization or render or something, this can make a big difference for bringing life to it. We have another company that we acquired called Quixel, and Quixel actually goes around the world taking photos of stuff, and they make all that stuff freely available to use inside Unreal Engine and Twinmotion. So all these rocks, twigs, trees, branches, rubble, bricks, everything that you might need to build a world, you can do that just using the freely available Quixel assets. And these are used across super high-end Hollywood grade films, video games, and everything in between. And the tech that actually enables them to do that is Reality Capture, another company that we acquired a while ago. So Reality Capture is one of the best photogrammetry tools on the market. So you can go out, scan your assets with LiDAR scanners, drones, cameras, whatever else you need, capture the real world, and then turn that into 3D assets. Or you can still use the point cloud and bring that directly into Twinmotion or Unreal Engine. But a lot of the time, a point cloud is not going to give you the fidelity you want. So you can turn that into a 3D asset that you can bring into any different tools. One of those other tools could also be Sketchfab, where we're creating a new version of capturing reality that runs on mobile devices. You can do really quick scans and it uploads straight into Sketchfab. Sketchfab is essentially an online 3D marketplace where you might have seen we've made all the free assets easily available in Twinmotion with the new version. But you can also sell your 3D assets on there. You can buy 3D assets. It's also got an incredibly good WebGL browser and viewer in there. So viewing 3D content directly in the web becomes super easy with it, as well as single button press to turn it into an AR viewer. So if you wanted to see out in the real world what your 3D asset looks like, you can see it from one of the videos playing in the bottom right there at the moment. You can have these 3D animations with a single click in AR, or as well as WebVR too. So rather than needing to build out a custom application on Unreal, you could just drop it straight into Sketchfab and have that in there right away. ArtStation is another one as well, where if you're looking for a designer or a 3D artist, check out ArtStation because it's essentially LinkedIn for artists. And it's where a lot of people will be posting their portfolios, looking for jobs. It's got a jobs portal and everything on there as well. But it's a really, really useful website to check out if you're looking, well, if you want to just check out some really cool art, but also if you want to hire people, ArtStation is really the place to go for this talent now. And I could keep going for hours more, but I don't want to take up too much time. So that's probably going to be the end of my presentation, and happy to take some Q&A.
Thank you very much, Dean. I think thanks for sharing the multitude of tools, and especially an important one will be ArtStation, because everyone's just scrambling to find talents in these respective fields. And of course, we do only have one question because I believe the rest of them are so awestruck at the moment. They'll probably connect with you over LinkedIn after. So I think this is a question you might have answered, but this is specific to Twinmotion, which is, could you capture a point cloud of a building lobby, then import it in Twinmotion, apply material to the point cloud, do a rendering, then position some additional assets on it, for example, plants, desks. The final goal is actually to show the end customer what it can look like, and that the customer is able to change what he wishes on the assets in Twinmotion.
Yeah, absolutely. So both Twinmotion and Unreal support like every point cloud format that you might need. So you can just drop that straight into the tools and it'll work. But also that's where something like capturing reality can come in handy as well, because you might want to convert that into a 3D asset that you can do other stuff with. We actually see within the construction industry some interesting use cases where people will bring the BIM models in for the construction and then do, let's say, monthly kind of LiDAR point cloud scans so they can compare how the real world construction is going against the original designs. This is also useful to do after construction is finished to see each year, okay, what's the subsidence like? How is the concrete settling? What other damage is there on the building? And use that to start to understand what's actually happening in the real world compared to the digital one.
Thank you very much, Dean. And I think that's all we have for you in terms of questions. Thank you so much for showing us what the technologies look like. And it's so impressive to visualize so much with just mass market computing power. Thank you so much for sharing. And we invite you to connect with Dean after the session. I'm sure you have tons of questions. Thank you so much, Dean. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
All right, see you. And speaking of visualization, and of course, I'm sure you found the sharing very, very fruitful thus far. We just like to encourage, once again, we do notice still some of our participants typing the questions in the Zoom chat. We do only answer questions directed to the Q&A in the interest of collating those questions. Now, talking about this collaboration and openness that Dean has mentioned before in bringing different assets onto the same platform, this is something that is very, very interesting and also featured by the next speaker in terms of collaboration. The next speaker we have will be CEO of VR Collab, Mr. Ryan Liu. Now, Ryan serves as the CEO of VR Collab, which is a construction tech startup which democratizes the value of digitalization for all architecture, engineering, construction stakeholders via making building information modeling more collaborative, usable, and scalable. Without further ado, let's welcome the CEO of VR Collab, Ryan Liu. Hi, Ryan.
Hello, thank you, Tsing Hong, and thanks for joining me this morning. So good morning to all of you. As Tsing Hong, introduced me, my name is Ryan, currently serving as the CEO of VR Collab. Give me a quick moment for me to share my screen. Okay, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
All
Great.
right.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think I've been listening to the two speakers, so it's it's really amazing, of course, what Verspatial and what Unreal is doing. But for us, we are a bit more very architecture, engineering, construction centric. So it's more of like, how can you apply it to your your tenders, your everyday BIM coordinations, drawing coordinations? How do you apply it on site? How do you apply it for facility management, operation and maintenance kinds of things? So quick introduction, VR Collab actually is a Singaporean company. We are headquartered, we were founded originally in 2016 in Singapore. Today, we have about 400 organizations in 32 countries that are our direct clients. These may range from your architects, your engineers, so your MEP engineers, your civil engineers, your builders, right, your contractors, your government authorities, your owners, stuff like that. So that being said, I think in the AEC industry, especially, where technology is, prevalent, it's mandated by the government, but majority of the time when we are doing our projects, we don't typically use technology that much, right? We build buildings we try to build buildings in the same way that we've been doing for the past 3-4 decades. And that kind of inertia is actually not very healthy moving forward as buildings get more complex. So that being said, you have people like the governments, the building owners, or some contractors or consultants that are saying, hey, let's try to VR, AR, XR, we put it into our organization or tender. So everyone gets a bit confused, right? So what I want to do today is that I want to demystify all these acronyms, and then how you can directly apply these technologies in a pragmatic way for your build or construction projects. So for VR Collab, in the past 6 years, we have a lot of partners and clients and projects all over the world. The difference is that I cannot tell you how many projects because mine is more of a software as a solution. So if you go to my website, try the trial, you like it, you use it with your projects, then you can use it for any number of projects. So we tend to work more closely with the organizations and the people that use it rather than the individual project use cases. So for example, back home in Singapore, like HTB, LTA, all these guys, every architecture model, engineering model, contractor model that needs to be approved, these guys will actually use our softwares to run through their BIM model, their BIM drawings, their 3D drawings essentially of the building before submission. And then LTA uses our software to review all these BIM models before these things are built. And then of course, for the AR side of things, instead of referencing 2D plans, they're able to use the BIM models that are mandated, that are submitted to them to do QA/QC checks, operation and maintenance, so on and so forth. In other countries, we have like Hitachi ABB in the whole of Europe using us for solar wind farms, operation and maintenance, infrastructure projects in China, quite a bit of semiconductor data center type projects, and even the Colombian Navy uses BIM for shipbuilding, and they also use our software for the coordination of those designs. So the MEPs, the architecture, so on and so forth. Yeah. So the key thing about our industry, right, is that we've been building, we've been designing buildings, pen and paper. And then after that, when the computer came around a couple of decades ago, we started doing 2D CAD. But in the past, like for Singapore, we've been mandating BIM for the past, 10 years, right? And then actually I'm calling in from KL, Malaysia, here to meet our partners and clients. They also have started to mandate BIM in the same thing. So everywhere we see from Southeast Asia to China, to India, to the Middle East, and of course, in the Western Hemisphere, BIM is a thing, right? You're trying to replace 2D drawings and not replace, but your 2D comes from your BIM automatically, right? Whereas the BIM has not only the 2D drawings, the geometry, but a lot more information. But the problem here is that majority of people are not BIM trained. I previously was an engineer, but I wasn't BIM trained, right? So I had to learn that. And most people in projects are not BIM trained. So where all your data is in the BIM for that building or that project, but most people, 95% of the stakeholders in the project cannot access that data. So this is a huge problem. And not only access, but they can't even understand it, right? They prefer to look at a 2D plan. So for VR Collab, we say that if you're not BIM trained, we allow you easy access, understanding, communication. If you're BIM trained, we allow you quicker workflows and communicating with non-BIM trained stakeholders. And of course, in certain projects like hospital projects, some of the stakeholders that need to be involved even at the design stage with the architect and the engineer could be non-architecture or engineering trained. So let's say your doctors or lead surgeons, head of departments. And that's where VR Collab essentially allows even, let's say, a 15-year-old a child that plays Fortnite, he probably could lead the coordination of the entire Changi Airport. Not lead as in pilot it, but that's the kind of easy access and understanding that we give to this industry. So quick, demo show reel. So this is, for example, this is a Ascender Sing Bridge project. Becca, one of the engineering consultants, our clients. So visualization, right? Easy work, smooth, easy to use. This is Baustat, using it on site. This is your MRT model, your BIM model. So right down to the nuts and the bolts, we bring that in, the metadata. What we care about is not only looking nice, but the MEP systems, the technical systems, because you know, in our industry, a lot of the times it's not the facade that's the problem, it's the MEP systems that are designed poorly, or it clashes, it hits something else, or it can't be maintained. And then of course, once the design is approved, you start building it. You use instead of referencing 2D plans on site, you use the BIM model, superimpose it with AR, for example, before your installation fit out. Once it's installed, QA/QC, operation and maintenance, you can see the pipes below this particular floor tile, so on and so forth. You can click on it. Oh, what is this system? What's the measurement? What's the dimensioning? And then you do your A&A or operation and maintenance works accordingly. And then of course you have a bit more immersive spaces that are getting quite popular, like caves, 3D glasses instead of the virtual reality goggles. But most of it is also like keyboard and mouse usable. It's really easy to understand because unlike our traditional 3D coordination softwares, right? Those are like procedurally rendered and stuff like that, dynamic, a lot of like dynamic loading, but for our stuff, it's real-time rendered. So you get the full model. It's as if you're there before the building is built. That being said, old buildings, brownfield projects that you don't use BIM, right? I think you need to have a BIM model for technologies like ours to help you. So for majority of my SaaS products, right, if you use BIM, you use 3D modeling, it's just a one-click plug and play. And for those more advanced of you, use a common data environment, let's say Autodesk BIM 360, Autodesk Docs, what have you, open formats IFC. We are able to one-click bring that in, do your thing. The issues are automatically created for reiteration of the design, so on and so forth. Yeah. So this is more of like CDE. So you can have your models and issues. You can directly bring that in, be it for BIM coordination, virtual reality, usage, real-time internet meetings. You can have use the cave if you want to. And then, of course, going on site and then using that BIM model instead of referencing 2D plans, which of course the issues are synced back to your common data environment. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to talk about the first product, ARVR Collab Coordinate. What is it used for, right? Four simple things. One thing is we make it super intuitive. No more of this. Look at something like this, easy to walk through, arrow keys, look around on your keyboard and mouse. You easily understand it, access it, walk through. You easily can communicate it to someone who's looking at it. Second thing, real-time internet, real-time remote internet meetings. Singapore is quite small, but a lot of our clients, the site is huge, or different cross offices across Europe work together on the same project. If they want to meet in a meeting room or what have you not, then that's not very efficient. But our software allows you to be like the Zoom for BIM coordination, right? Third things, but soft clash detection. So soft clash is essentially in a building, you have a hard clash. It's like, oh, this pipe is designed to hit this column, which is wrong, right? You solve that. But soft clashes happen when it's more related to the accessibility of things. The system works fine, but you did not put in enough space around it for it to be maintained. Is it wheelchair accessible? The turn radius is enough for a normal car, but it's not enough for an ambulance because this is a hospital project. So these are the soft clashes that we allow you to detect before it's built. And that's where also some of the ROI talks come from, right? If for those of you that are developers, you don't want your variation orders, you want things to be designed, you sign off on it, it gets built, no problems, and you're able to maintain that. And then lastly, virtual reality sign off. So essentially, you're able to be in the building before it's built. If I'm this height in real life, I'm this height in my design. I take one step forward, I squat down, it's the same. And of course, I have superpowers, X-ray features, so on and so forth, right? So this is a keyboard and mouse usage. As you can see, this is much more easier to understand and of course a 2D plan, but also at the same time, the traditional 3D kind of coordination tool. You're able to fly around, you can go, you can trace every single piping if you want to. A lot of the engineers do that, especially for semiconductor type factory projects. They have to trace the pipes, they have to understand the dimensions, the different geometries, different elbows or systems. This is a control panel for LTA, one of the MRT stations, rail infrastructure. You look around, you coordinate in one click, you can get a dimensioning, for example, headroom, more complex measurements like bounding boxes. The measurements can snap to each other for center point measurements. So when you want to create a comment, right, in our industry, it's quite stupid in the sense that you take a screenshot of like your Navisworks or your 2D plan, put it in a PowerPoint. But for us, why not directly comment on the thing that you want to change? We automatically can generate a report for you to send to your consultants, your engineers, your builders for change, right? And then of course you have your virtual reality, usage. So you see my colleague here, this is his first person view. So once you learn the desktop, you also are able to, it's the same interface and the same functionality in virtual reality. So he's also able to navigate even with the VR. He's able to click, inspect, oh, this system, which does it belong to, or the element ID, so on and so forth. Yeah, so this is a bit more technical, but yeah, you get the gist. And then some people say, hey, Ryan, but some of my guys don't want to use VR. They want to use your keyboard and mouse. And some of my guys, my VIP clients wants to use VR, no problem. You can have them at an internet meeting. And 2 of them are using VR, 2 of them are not. This is 4 different homes, but it could be 4 different countries or continents. It doesn't matter, right? As long as you have a stable internet connection, you bring your BIM model, do your thing, your issues go back up. Okay, so this is the workflow. If you have BIM or 3D models in your projects, you'll be doing the left side workflow. You bring in 1 click, do your thing, issues, automatically generate your PDF, Excel, Navisworks XML, BCFs for reiteration of your models. If you're a bit more advanced or your project's a bit more advanced, your models and issues from previous meetings should be here. You bring that in, the issues go back up. We are not only integrated to Autodesk CDEs, but BIMtrack and so on and so forth. Okay, quick ROI. For this part, very simple, is if you were not using VR Collab, you're coordinating your BIM model, 3D model, your design, you're going to spend about 90 to 100 hours per week, man hours per week. With VR Collab, because of the ease of use, ease of understanding, increased communication, automated workflows, you're going to save about 21.5 man hours per week. So time saving immediately, right? Travel costs and all that kind of thing, if you want to put that in. That being said, soft clashes is the key one. 217, this survey is from 217 users globally, primarily builders or main contractors. They detected about 3.6 soft clashes per hour of using VR Collab during coordination that they otherwise wouldn't have detected. So as you're a developer, right, a very, very conservative estimate is every soft clash detected before it's built is about 17,000 USD per clash. So 3.6 is about, you're saving 61,000 USD, per hour using VR Collab, coordinating or signing off your design with it. And that cost saving, right, only happens 3 years later when things are built. So as the developer, you care about that. So get your guys to use it. In fact, if you're in Singapore, probably as a developer, majority of your buildings, probably a lot of your contractors or consultants are already actually using VR Collab. So you can request them for it. Okay, that being said, if I'm using VR, I'm visually isolated from you, meaning I can see the building, I can't see you, right? If we are face to face. Second thing is that you might be able to see what I see, but you don't have the depth and perspective, which is why I see more and more people like LTA, Changi Airport, so on and so forth, these big developers, or even some consultants like Sabana Jurong, they have a cave. Whereas everyone's wearing 3D glasses, stereoscopic glasses, they're able to use their 3D projectors on the walls to see an immersive view with the depth and perspective. So something like that. So some of them just go for immersive, right? It surrounds them. Some of them go for 3D glasses. So this is on-site at Gammon. It's an on-site cave. This is in Sabana, Jurong. They're wearing 3D glasses. Of course, they have the internet meeting with the other keyboard and mouse users. This is also possible. This one has not 3D, doesn't have 3D glasses, but it's more of like a concave thing that surrounds them, and they feel that that's immersive enough to do their coordination. But whatever it is, it runs on the VR Collab software and it has the very easy to use features. Same workflow. Don't want to dive too much into it. Just make sure your project is BIM, is using BIM or 3D models, and I think we can value add a lot to your build project. Okay, second part, Dimensions. Dimensions is my product that essentially allows you to, how when things are being built, we are on site, or after things are built in buildings, we tend to do we reference the 2D plan, right? But the thing is that now that most buildings are done in BIM, by right, or most of your 2D plans are automatic, and your shop drawings, your plan views, your construction drawings, they are automatically generated from the BIM model. So why go on site, have the BIM model, but use the 2D plans, and you have so much less information, and you bring so much stacks of paper and you have to reference different documents. Just take the BIM model, superimpose it on site. So once you do that, very easy. What it helps with, installation, fit out. I've created the, let's say you build a building, right? The level, the columns, structural columns are all there. But the last thing to go on is the MEP systems. Let's say, oh, this corridor, we're going to have a water riser module, a pipe, a HVAC or whatever, a conduit or whatever. So just superimpose the digital column to the real life column, and then, you know, check out your MEP systems, for example. So this one you can bring from CDEs, from your BIM models on the iPad. Basically, digital columns superimposed on the real life column. You see on the floor, you can see the pipes. That's for maybe more of O&M. This one is before I install this, I can see after I install, I can QA, QC. Immediately, I can get the measurements and stuff like that. This one is a Microsoft data center project. Oh no, sorry, not Microsoft, AirTrunk. So before installation, they check. After that, they install, they check the issues, and then they mark it up, and then you know, they use it. So, and then of course for O&M later, I'll show you. This one is more for the prefabrication phase in the factory. You can see each step. Am I doing it right? What's the next step? Am I doing it right? You know, and then you sign off on it. And this is of course for facility management. This building is built. They have the BIM model from the architects, the engineers, the builders. And then instead of referencing 2D plans, they're actually using the software to check, okay, these pipes, this is an open ceiling, right? So this is not much use, but imagine if the pipes were underneath the floor, you can essentially see, oh, I'm supposed to hack at this floor tile instead of the other one, and you immediately get a measurement. So that's how it helps. And then of course, you sort of digitize the pen and paper process, right? I mean, there's no more pen and paper, but a lot of time when you do on-site issues, you go and take a picture and then you send your supervisor on WhatsApp. But all this is not, it's a very fragmented digitized reporting. So with this, you tag the issue directly on the BIM model, and then with the site issue, the AR overlay, and then someone can do something about it while having access to that full history of that digital object, which is the building object. Same workflow, have your BIM model. If you want to use CDE, then so be it. You can use iPad Pro, HoloLens 2. I recommend the iPad Pro because HoloLens 2 is a bit less cost effective and it's a bit clunky to use with the controls. So iPad is great. Okay. ROI, very simple. You don't misunderstand the 2D plan before you install it because there's so much more information at your fingertips, right? It's literally superimposing the thing on top of the site. Second thing is that, of course, there's some level of time reduction because it's much quicker. You basically consolidate a lot of the on-site issues. And then, of course, with the software itself, technology, you have internet on-site, you can have like remote guidance and assessment. So share screen, say that, hey, you know, this thing, there's an issue, you can call someone a bit more experienced to help you while you're on-site, and the guy does not need to come down with you on-site. So that's a bit of cost or time savings there. Okay, so final one, digital twins. We have a bit, so one of my offices in Hangzhou, China, we opened another office there about 2 years ago. We've been working on digital twin project. So this is not a product. So before that, the two things I showed you is more product, right? So it's a plug and play thing. Go to my website, vrcollab.com, you can check it out. That's why we have clients in 32 countries, right? Because everywhere they use BIM, it's a plug and play system. But some of our clients, they want to go a step further. They use our products. They say, hey, you know, for this really important project, so for example, this one in China, when it's built in 2.5 years' time, it will be the tallest tower bridge in the world. So it's a construction twin, essentially, right? So the geometry you see is obviously from the BIM model, but all the rest of the data is not from the BIM, right? It's like, how come you have rain, you have this cranes and stuff, the load sensors, and then now you're building it over some like body of water, a sea or something. What are the tides? So when you see that happening in the construction twin, right? Essentially, it's your IoT data being fed in, and then of course your digital twin replicates in real time exactly what is going on site. So, and then of course you have your typical like BI kind of dashboards. All this is customized. So this is more of our bespoke projects division, but our main business is obviously the software as a service. Of course, so what does this do, right? Construction twin, facility management twin, digital asset, what does it do? Essentially allowing someone to have almost to to be omnipresent and to be omnipotent, right? To know for this asset or this site that's 10 km by 10 km, I can be everywhere at once. I can know everything at once. I can have access to everything at once without even being there. It's almost having like really godlike powers. So essentially, probably a project director or project manager might use something like this to manage their asset. So the asset in this case is a construction site. That being said, construction sites are very everyday things are changing, right? So we did this, but honestly, we have done like facility management assets or assets of like commercial buildings that have already been built. Those are much easier, but the data that you're bringing in, the only thing that differs, right, is the data that you're bringing in. So for brownfield projects, yeah, you have the 2D plans, then you just manually get someone to recreate your geometry, right? The 3D geometry. But the hard part is always the data. The data is, most data are way too dirty for digital twins, and that's why it typically has to be a bespoke solutions. Oh, you want your building management system data to come in, we have to work through that data. You want your, certain things like toll group, for example, warehouse, one of our clients, they did like, I want my forklifts, how it moves, tied to the stock inventory data. So this kind of data, we have to clean it together to realize what is your expectation and how we tie it into the geometry. So I think the thing about digital twins, right, for a lot of things, especially if like you want to match an asset, the geometry is the least of your worries, visualizations is the least of your worries. What is important is the data, and you got to make sure, or you got to work with people like myself, Verspatial, or Unreal, to make sure that, okay, this data would work, right? So it's more of a consultative and collaborative approach for data. Yeah. Okay, so I think you understand the benefits. And honestly, like metaverse, digital twins, a lot of things are undefined. Of course, you have thought leaders trying to push, extend those boundaries. But at the end of the day, we do not know what's the final form of it. So the good thing is that dream as big as you can, and then we see what we can create in the next few years, right? Yeah. So for those of you that want to reach out, especially if you're doing like architecture, engineering, contractor, you do BIM, so very like AEC type thing, I believe we can collaborate and we can value add to each other. So contact me at ryan@vrcollab.com. And then of course, vrcollab.com is the website. So thank you for that. Yeah, back to you.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. I would love to, pose some questions to you from the Q&A,
yes,
but you have answered almost all of them
via
your presentation.
Wow. Maybe I took a bit long.
No, because you were straight to the point about the cost benefits. You're also straight to the point about the various applications and in the scale and how they can actually, subscribe to the service or in fact go on a bespoke project with you depending on the scale and the adaptation of the project. So I think you answered a lot, including the one in brownfield. So Ryan, I think many of you would have taken some pictures of Ryan's final slide, which is the most important part, which is how to stay in contact with Ryan. But of course, I think Ryan will also introduce to you some of his team members for you to further implement your project needs as well, right? Because being the CEO, I don't think he can do all the modeling by himself. So I'm sure.
I think one thing is that for majority of our value add is products, right? So you would already have them. I don't need to do modeling. I just need to give you a good software. So yeah.
Right, very true, very true. Thank you so much for that. And of course, it's mainly two of your SaaS products over there. And of course, the bespoke is one of the more exceptional cases as well. Yeah, but if you have something as big as the China building over there, then probably you can speak to Ryan about some bespoke services. But definitely check out their SaaS services, because what I see really of great value over here is turning data in a 2D model to visualizations that can then be used for monitoring and changes. Am I right about that, Ryan? Because I see in the layers that you have. Yeah, thank you so much for that. And of course, once again, that was the CEO of VR Collab, Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing such a specific product and such a great offering for the AEC industry. Thank you once again. Right, next up, of course, ladies and gentlemen over here, all our guests, I'm sure you have been getting great value from this webinar over here. And perhaps on top of the value that you get, on top of the understanding, some of us might be a little bit cloudy in terms of what services that we can apply to our businesses. After all, whichever technologies that we are recommending or we are presenting over here, the most important part is to bring it to application and to get the ROI, which is why IMDA actually serves as the platform of choice for many corporates to come in to say that, you will just have to tell us the problem or the challenge that you're facing, or in fact, we are able to help diagnose and also to recommend the correct partners over here. And to share more, we do have our Senior Manager of Innovation from IMDA Pixel, Ms. Janice Lim, to say a few words. Janice, please.
Oh, thanks, Ting Hong. Thank you everyone for joining our early morning webinar today. I am very mindful of time. I know that we have kind of overrun by quite a bit. So let me just take a very quick 5 minutes to share more about what we do. So for those of you who do not know, the team that brought to you today's session, we run an innovation facility at One North to bring together the innovation ecosystem. So your corporates, your companies, your startups, and we focus a lot on selected tech areas such as AI, data, and IoT, but also more in nascent tech areas such as ARVR, which I'm sure all of us are very interested in today. So the idea of our innovation space really is to give startups a push along their journey. So providing them access to hot desking spaces, specialized labs such as our ARVR lab and a 5G test bed, which really go hand in hand. And to help them build better solutions, we also have partner consultants in design thinking, UI, UX, and branding. I'll go through that a bit later. And very similar to what you see today, we run a lot of community events because we feel that it's really important to bring together the innovation ecosystem. So earlier, like what I mentioned, for companies or startups who are keen to know more about UI, UX, design thinking, or branding, we run monthly 101 type of workshops. If you are at the start of the journey, you just want to know what are some of the basic principles or tips. If you are a tech company working on a digital solution, you can speak to us to understand a little bit more about our 2-day short clinics or our extended project coaching where you get access to our consultants. And over the years, we've really built up quite a sizable community of tech companies, increasingly more so in ARVR in recent years. So come speak to us if you'd like to get connected to some of the ARVR companies that we know of, or if you have an ARVR project in mind, you don't really know where to start, speak to us and we can actually scope out a project together as well. So staying connected with our Pixel community is important to us, and this is why like an event like today is a part of our efforts to bring everyone together and share the latest tech developments. So I would encourage everyone to continue to keep in touch with us through our mailing list. Beyond that, our innovation space also hosts a couple of industry events once in a while. For example, the one with the Korea Development Bank. This is really to bring pitching opportunities to the startups and the tech companies in our community. And the last part I'd like to share is some of you may already know about this, but the innovation team at IMDA also runs an open innovation platform. It's essentially like a digital platform to crowdsource innovative solutions for businesses or any digitalization challenges that you might face. So over the years, we have facilitated over 300 challenges and over 8.5 million of prize monies given out to successful POCs that were completed. So this platform is agnostic, so we welcome any type of challenges from various industries. For example, we have facilitated past challenges in the financial sector, FMCG, healthcare, and even construction, which I think quite a few of you guys are from the construction industry today. And we also welcome problem solvers, the tech companies, to submit their proposals to our upcoming challenges as well. So I think that's the last slide that I have for today. I'll just pass the time back over to Ting Hong.
Thank you very much, Janice, on sharing the possibilities of collaborating, coming to IMDA to really, look forward to the different innovation and possibilities that we can do with the different spaces, not just with AR, VR, but actually in the fact, for IMDA, we hope to help corporates innovate in a way that's suitable to face the challenges that they have over here. So please do not be shy to come to IMDA to have a chat with the representatives. And of course, I'm sure you'll find it very, very fruitful. Once again, we invite you to stay connected with the community, as Janice has mentioned, which is essentially to follow us on LinkedIn and at the same time to join us on our mailing list. We thank you for your attention today. And we do hope that, with our speakers over here, you are able to decode ARVR and the metaverse itself in the sense of business rather than it being a buzzword on how is it helpful to you. And if you do need more support, once again, we encourage you to come to IMDA. And if you're looking for any context that you missed out earlier, be it of Ryan or Dean or Dan, come ahead, come to us and let us know what you need. And we'll definitely try to support and build this amazing, innovative ecosystem that we have at Pixel. My name is Ching Hong. Once again, a pleasure to be the facilitator as well as the MC for today for IMDA's webinar of how AR/VR is disrupting the smart estates industry. So thank you so much for your amazing questions. I know a couple of them might not have gone answered, but please go ahead and connect with us after this session. And of course, we seek your help to actually just send a little bit of feedback over here via the QR code that we have over here, and estimated just 2 minutes of your time. So once again, thank you so much for attending how AR/VR is disrupting the smart estates industry webinar brought to you by IMDA. We will see you next time. And of course, let's keep in touch via the mailing list. Bye-bye. Thank you.